to address the board. This is item 2 on our agenda, and because this is a special meeting, I would ask that anybody who wishes to address the board, please limit your comments to the superintendent search only. And so with that being said, Spanides, the floor is yours.
Good evening. On January 19th of 2022, I checked on the MPS School Board webpage and found out there was a meeting that morning at 8:30. Joe and I attended that meeting, and I'm sure those in attendance remember, as that was the day I was interrupted twice during my 3-minute public comment after the previous speaker ran over by at least a minute before being stopped. It was after that event in a FOIA and Open Meeting Act training class that I attended that I put in a FOIA request in May of 2022 for a 6-month subscription, which is the limited amount of time for a Freedom of Information Act, to all regular and special meeting agenda packets. Joe and I have been paying about $100 6 months for these subscriptions, and one is still currently active. I asked the FOIA coordinator after the last meeting this question. I would like to know why I did not receive the agenda and information about the meeting held on October 10th at 12 p.m. The response was about meetings. It had nothing to do with my requested information. I received no real explanation as to why my FOIA request for information about special meetings was not fulfilled. The thing is this: it was stated by several board members last week that the Open Meeting Act was followed and the public was notified. The notice for the special meeting appears to be put on the website, the top drop-down bar on the left, which was not very visible. It was not added to the board's calendar of meetings on the website. Previous special meetings and today's meeting were added to the page, though. In fact, someone looking at the Board of Education page would not even know that that special public meeting on October 10th took place, as there is no visible reference to it, no agenda, no link to it, and in fact, if you search it, it won't bring anything up for October 10th. I was told by Superintendent Penny that it wasn't because it was a committee meeting and not a special Board of Education meeting. But this wasn't a regular committee meeting, which is why it had to be posted for the public. It was a special public meeting, otherwise why the attempt to fulfill the Open Meeting Act. As far as the Open Meeting Act, in section 15.266, providing copies of public notice on written request, Section 6 says, upon the written request of an individual and upon the requesting party's payment, a public body shall send to the requesting party a copy of any notice required to be posted pursuant to Section 5.2 and 5. I have paid the FOIA fees requesting copies of all agenda packets, including special meetings and regular meetings, and to receive these communications by email. Why not this time? Were you really in compliance with the Open Meeting Act? Thank you.
The answer to that is yes. Thank you. Does anyone wish to address the board? Please. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Angie Kelleher. At a previous meeting, one of my neighbors brought up something about the National School Board Association, and I wanted to address that. I think most of you already know this, but in case anyone watching doesn't, back at the height of the pandemic, when there were mask mandates, there were lots of people attending school board meetings across the country that hadn't before, and some of those got pretty heated. And some school board members were threatened and harassed and even got death threats. I don't think that happened here in Michigan, but some school board members in other states did, and that's when the National School Board Association told the president and his administration that some parents' actions pushing back against critical race theory, mask mandates, and other flashpoints were the equivalent to a form of domestic terrorism. So they were talking about some parents, and some parents did do that. So I don't think it's out of line for the federal government to keep an eye on that issue, and I think that the National School Board Association was advocating for numbers. It never said that parents weren't allowed to voice their concerns. And so I don't think there's any reason to hold any of that against the Michigan Association of School Boards, who are one of our potential search firms. Also wanted to mention that I was looking at articles about other school districts that have done searches, and sometimes when there was an internal candidate, some of the citizens were unhappy if they had an internal candidate because they said it was a waste of money. And I just wanted to address that since we do have an internal candidate. We have Ms. Miller-Nilsson, who's a wonderful interim superintendent, and I don't know that she's going to apply, but if she does, I'm glad we're using search firms. I'm glad we're seriously looking at other candidates. That will give us a sense of the type of talent that's in the market. So we can compare our internal candidates. It will help us bring a new perspective to the organization. And if our internal candidate is successful, then we will know that she has more credibility and more respect for having gone through that process. I also am glad we're using search firms because it just helps us to sort of get out of our little bubble and maybe see what other candidates are out there. And I would like to caution us against looking for a culture fit. I think we don't necessarily want someone that exactly fits with our current culture. I know that's very tempting and it would be much smoother. And I'm not saying we shouldn't hire internal candidates, but I think it's important to look for different perspectives as well in innovative ideas. Thank you.